You know what Web 2.0 is? Okay, Web 2.0 is basically the art of being able to put in your data and at the same time reading the data. You put the data in and then you receive it, okay? Web 3.0 is where you go into an environment and your software knows what you need when you're there, okay? So imagine you go to different places and the software you need automatically becomes what you want. And that's what I'm creating. I believe it's the most powerful way to make revenue on mobile devices. Because what we do is we're always with you with your agenda. What are you up to? What are you doing? And then so you're always seeing these ads that the businesses are putting up, which are the prizes, and you're always seeing it. So every moment we have an excuse to say, hey, check us out, look at what we got, because it's about you. You know, we're not telling you what you should do, you're doing it yourself. You create these goals that you care about, and what the system does is it helps you figure out how you're going to do it, and then it makes a time for you to do it. So then what happens is the time comes along, and then you execute, you try your best. And if it doesn't work out, the system will ask you, how did it go? So now it doesn't just help you figure out what you want to do, it also helps you to figure out what you, like, if something happens, something goes wrong, you have an interview, things didn't go well. The system will ask you, how did it go? And then you can either choose to try again, try something different, or ask the crowdsourcing community and have them help you figure out what to do. The problem with today's technology, you've got Facebook, you've got Google, you've got Twitter, all these services, they're great, they connect you to everyone else. But what do they really do for you as an individual? How do they really help you grow? And like, if you have your dreams, your goals, what you're trying to do, like, isn't that important? Don't you want your kids, or if you know somebody, or if you have like a child related to you somehow? I'm sure everyone knows a young adult who's trying to form his or her future, right? Do you want them worried more about like the party that's going on next door, or do you want them to like worry about their future and what they're going to create for themselves? That's what's most important, I think. You know, and unfortunately, the highest level of communication that we have, the web, it's run by these big organizations like, you know, like Google and Facebook. And, you know, what they're doing, what they're putting is the most important thing is the advertisements and the things that are going on around you. It's like, what's really important is what's in here, what's inside you. It's an individual. You know, it makes you great. You know, not the friend or other people around you. Those people it remind you of who you are, but they're not who you are. Who you are is what you make of yourself. And anything that tries to take you away from that, I think, is false. Okay? Or it's taking you away from all the great things that you can do. Everyone has great talent, great abilities, different personalities. Everyone has their own point of view. And to not try to make that flourish and turn into something great, I think it's a waste. It's a real waste. So this technology, I believe, is a cornerstone of Web 3.0 because it's your agenda, it's what you're up to. So it's like, imagine looking at your planner. As time goes by, as we successfully build upon it, we will add things like buying and selling, employment. What are you doing? Just saying, I want to go and do something. And that is the big push. Because if we get into that space of like what we're doing, I want to go shopping, I want to go find a game, I want to play a game with some friends, I want to go find an activity to do.
What was the main inspiration for developing that thing?
The main inspiration is actually, it's a funny story to that. I have an ongoing passion of trying to find a cure for HIV. And I was communicating with a professor at Yale, and we were wrapping our heads around it. I was having a fever, okay, doing this. And what happened was I wanted to make a fake cell, trick the HIV to inject its core into the cell, okay, and disarming it, basically. But the problem is that viruses can lurk and hide in crevices inside your body, and they can lay dormant for years. That's the problem. And so having these cells go around, they may sweep up a bunch of it, but they won't eradicate the disease. So I was working with this gentleman trying to figure it out, and it turns out I was like, let's just chop it up and make lots of little pieces, like create a process to break the cells into into little pieces so they'd be floating around and get everywhere. You know, like Operation Clean Sweep. But the problem is that because of the material, your liver would reject it. The protein in it would cause you to have like a shutdown in your liver. So I kind of put it on the side, and then I was just like, man, like, it's a shame that people can't work together like the cells in our body. Like our cells in our body, like a blood cell, will bump into a bone cell and know exactly what it needs. Like, or they'll have an exchange. There's no like, are you gonna rip me off? Is this gonna be a fair exchange? That doesn't happen in our body. Everything that happens in our body, it happens naturally and synergistically. And why can't we work like that? So like that's what I created.
What are you looking for now?
I'm looking for talent. I need a CTO, I need artists, I need programmers, you name it, I need it. And with the right talent, I believe this thing could get, like, the first leg of it can be done in a year. Yes.
Have you wireframed this yet?
Yes, I have, and actually I was going to show it to whoever wants to see it. I'm going to go into that room after we're all done here. I'm going to show you 2 wireframes, one for the initial product and one for long term, like how I see it in the future. Because I want to make an avatar that reflects you, and that avatar is going to be at one point communicating with you. But that's like way in the future. But like I see it where in the future of the web, right? Imagine an avatar that you can communicate with, and when you go to places, that avatar can leap in and out of devices as you go to places. And that avatar could be a coach when you're in the gym. It could be a professor, or an assistant when you're at work, right? So there's so much to be added onto it because, like, you know, we're going to get into virtual currency, everything. Like, you name it, we'll own it. And also, the big thing here, we don't use cookies and we don't use metadata, which is the big deal. People don't like being followed, and the idea of taking your past and putting it into your future, which is something I learned from Landmark, which is like what you don't want to do. That's how they're doing it on the web. Like if I bought a toaster yesterday, does that mean I want a toaster today or tomorrow? No. When I'm typing in the emails, imagine if I typed in, like, I saw the most horrible accident. I saw my friend get mauled over by an ATV. I never want to see an ATV ever again. And then all around your email, now you're seeing ATV commercials, right? I mean, imagine that. But I'm saying there's a better way. I'm saying there's a future with Web 3.0 where people are going to be inspired and a whole new world of creation will exist. Yes?
So if you had all the resources that you needed and you started today, when would you be able to deliver your first
Initial minimal viable product?
When's your first product ship?
As soon as if I can get talent today and we could create a timeline, we're going to create a timeline for it to be created. During that time, I want to go to local businesses in the area and get businesses to join on board. I want a pizza place. I want a dentist. Right. I want to make it so that a person feels in the local area that they can take their points that they earn with us and go anywhere they want with it. Like I can get like my teeth taken care of, get my hair cut, I can get some groceries or something and get a TV. I want them to have that experience. So I'll take care of that part. That's not a big deal. I just need the talent. I need artists. I need programmers. I need someone to be my CTO. I need a marketing person, perhaps, just so that it's official. So I need talent. And let me tell you something. This thing has 2 app stores. Not 1, but 2. So, later on. The first initial product is very simple and streamlined. It's just about your goals and the prizes. Yes?
So what's the actual platform and what language are you using?
It's, okay.
Let's shoot.
Okay, so basically, I want it to be a web app first, okay? So we're going to be using MySQL perhaps with NoSQL, which is a certain type, which is a special type of SQL that's for fast. And there are certain groups like Foundation DB I'm very interested in. They can do ACID transactions within it. And ACID transactions are more secure and they're very reliable. So it's like you can have quick, reliable interactions. and you build it out like that, then you don't have to worry about the enormous amount of data. Because imagine at one point, you represent someone's like almost their entire spectrum of information, right? That would require, first of all, a good design for database, and also you want to make sure that you have the most efficient way to send out and receive the data. And so NoSQL is great, but you can't do it for everything. You need regular SQL for profile information and such and such. Does that answer your questions?
On the back end, what are you using on the, is it like open source or is it?
Well, I know that we're going to be using C#. I want C# to be used for it. I'm not a big PHP fan for that type. I don't think PHP would be appropriate for this type of work. So but then again, I'm not a CTO.
Okay.
But I do understand that kind of thing, and I also have a provisional patent which I'm turning into a utility patent for this work. My business plan, it needs to be adjusted to take into account that I don't know what the CTO will be able to do in terms of creating the project, how much it's going to cost and all that. But I've had an expensive estimate of being about 1.25 million for, and this was like a young guy who everything is perfect, and I was just like, what's asking for too much for an MVP?
Watch the wireframe.
What?
Watch the wireframe.
Okay.
So do you have a pitch deck?
Not completely, no.
He's working on it right
Working
now.
on it. Yeah, the pitch deck is going. You need to put in numbers in the pitch deck, right? I mean, you do. I mean, I could easily take.
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah, and I don't have Supreme graphics. All I have is wireframe, which is using IBM's Makeda, and I've been working with IBM because there was weird glitches in the thing because I can't even describe to you the issues. So, but I mean, I would take screenshots of that, but the graphics, the DPI on that is very low, so it's not that great. So it's like if you look at it, you have to understand what it is, which it's not too hard to do. I can explain it. You see it. It looks great, but it's not the prettiest thing. I think a person who's not forget about the investment. But if a person who doesn't know about the process of making this kind of stuff, they may say, well, why doesn't it look this way? And I wish, the graphics, and I don't get it. This should be this way. So I had not really gone that far yet to make that kind of work done because I feel like these other steps need to be taken. I need a CTO.
Makes sense. All right.
I have a very, very important question. I happen to be an accredited investor, and I run several hedge funds. John, come back here. Look me in the eye. This is a tough question. I met John very recently. I like you. I'm ready to make a major investment, 6 or 7 figures. But before I do this, I want a yes or a no. Are you a member of New Tech Community or Caffeine Spaces? Don't answer that question. Because if you are, and before I make my investment, okay, this is my business partner. He has a Bentley outside. He just had a major operation. Major operation. He's sitting next to me. He's my business partner. Okay? It's a tough question before I make my investment. And I have a couple other partners in here. Answer yes or no. I volunteer my services as your licensed business manager. I volunteer my services to you as long as it takes before I make my investment. Yes or no? May I volunteer my services as your official licensed? I'm licensed by the state of Florida. I'm also a mergers and acquisition specialist. I work for free, and then I make my investment. Yes or no?
On stage.
Go for it, Jonathan.
Yes, Bernie, I'm ready.
Here you go. Take hands. Milestone.
Thank you. This is what I wanted to speak about tonight. Yeah, I'm ready. And I need to practice on introducing people before they come in. Tashira, what are we going to talk about tonight? group of what?
Well, so I'm going to talk to you guys. This is a topic that that all of us that have been part of new tech community and other things have been kind of pushing for quite some time, and we just in the last 6 months really started to get some organization behind it. I've been in South Florida since 1988 and been in the technology industry doing mostly computer programming and some other things. And Mark and myself and a number of others, we've always had this interest of wanting to get South Florida to become more of a technology place than it currently is. So the idea behind that is if we have 10 companies that are in the technology space now, we want 100. If we have 50,000 employees doing technical things, we want 4 times that. All right? We want to be able to drive down the street and go like, there's a tech company, there's another, right? And right now, South Florida is nowhere even near to that. And anybody who tells you something different is either, they're smoking something interesting or they're just fooling themselves. So we got a lot of work to do. There have been a couple of people, individuals, little groups that have tried to build initiatives to try and make this happen. They're throwing money at it. But if you take 10 people and $1 million, it's not going to happen. The only way it happens is if everybody in this room understands what that vision is, buys into that vision, and then goes out and executes their own plans that are aligned with getting us there. So what does that mean? Well, what we want to do is we've got to do several things. There's 3 legs to this. One is you've got to have companies. We've got to start new companies, but we've also got to find ways to attract companies that already exist. I would like some of you guys who were at the Citrix building, right, a couple of weeks ago, right? Wouldn't it be cool to have 2 more like that around here? Or 5? How can we get something of that magnitude to say, I want to be located in Boca or Fort Lauderdale or West Palm or Miami or somewhere around here? That's what we want. We want 4 more Citrixes or 10. How do you get a company to do that? How do you get a company to say, yeah, I'll bring my 200 programmers and et cetera? How do you get them to do that? They're not just going to pick up and go, hey, I like your beaches, we'll show up. It's not going to happen. So a reason companies would do that is because they've got to have a couple things. They've got to have infrastructure, roads and internet, and we've got all that stuff, right? We've got no problems with that whatsoever. The other thing they got to have people they can hire. We aren't very strong in that area. Yeah, there's programmers around, you can find guys, but there's not enough of them. And there's not enough of them that are like 25, right? There's a bunch of old guys like me. And all the young guys leave and go to San Francisco or God knows where, right? We have a problem with that. We've got young programmers that leave the area. Do we not?
We do.
Absolutely. So how do we get more people in the area here that are like that? Well, they got to have somebody they can work for. They got to have companies sitting there going like, yeah, we want to hire a guy like this. Well, now we're in a catch-22 because you need the companies to get the people and you need the people to get the companies. So how do you bootstrap that? It's not easy, right? You got to fight both wars at the same time. Go ahead.
Ryan, we've been having issues in the marketplace where this is a heavy .NET community.
Yeah.
And so as my clients are growing and they're experiencing this growth, they're either using, whether it's Ruby on Rails, whether it's Python, whether it's even PHP or HTML5, I'm finding that there's a bit of a drought. It's a regional issue.
Absolutely.
With those developers. I think
Yeah.
we have maybe 15 strong ROI developers in the immediate area.
That's probably true. But so the kind of the third leg in all of this is the universities, FAU, FIU, and all of them. I don't know how many students they have involved in computer science and related technical things, but I'm going to tell you it's probably not enough. They're not evangelizing the high schools, and nobody's going to the high schools and telling these kids, you know what, go get a job in this particular field. It's awesome. I've been doing it for a long time.
Actually, there is one person at one of the schools here that one instructor is doing that.
Right? Nobody's evangelizing. All of us in here should be signing up to our local high school and go tell them right? Send Bernie in there to tell him, look, the tech field is freaking cool, right? It's awesome. There's smart people. You learn new technology. It's, we should be doing that. I had a young guy, I coached my kid's soccer, and I had a 22-year-old assistant coach. Known him since he was in his teens. And he's going to FAU and he's doing accounting. Smart kid. I said, why didn't you ever go into like the more technical fields? Do you ever think about that? And he told me, he says, somebody told me there was no money in it. I'm like, who the heck told you that? So there's people out there that are telling these kids nonsense, right? That's the exact opposite of the truth. So I really feel we've got enough smart kids around here and we've got enough people around here. They've just got to be focused on the right thing, and stop looking at dead industries and other things. I don't know how many of you guys, I have, two teenagers right now, and the jobs they're going to have probably aren't invented yet, right? We've got to be headed towards, we've got to skate to where the puck is going to be and not trying to make, whips and, buggy whips, right? Those industries are dead. Nobody's a blacksmith anymore. Go ahead.
Where do you go to learn that?
To learn what?
Program.
Well, there's a couple things. One is, obviously you have your traditional, university courses, right? Computer science courses. MIT has an online computer course you can get for free. All the course material is online. You can get it on your RockU or wherever, one of those devices.
Code Academy.
Right? So the online, my 16-year-old son, he uses YouTube as his own personal school. He's learned to do all kinds of stuff on YouTube, magic tricks, but as I said, MIT produces all this material for free. Yeah, you're not going to get a degree out of it, but what's important is learning the material, the concepts behind it. And then, whoever being the person that has an interest in it, you've got to burn some hours doing it. This doesn't happen, right? I started doing iPhone programming a month ago, and I'm up till 2 o'clock every morning, and I'm hammering it like a madman. But I've gotten good enough now, right? And it's because I put the time and the effort in, and the information is there. It's all out there.
All right, when you're talking about trying to attract youth, trying to tell these students to work with companies, one thing I've been noticing with the radio industry, just listen to the recent podcast, how Stitcher puts out an ad to getting new people to come in to do content management. They talk about all the perks we can offer right now, of course, your medical, dental, all your 401k, everything like that. Plus, they also now start describing the environment you're going to be working in, even showing you videos of what the environment looks like. It's like another Google Plus, right? They're showing all this stuff where this is the kind of stuff that in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, they're creating these environments that are like super cool and fun. Microsoft, the same way. Commissaries, they're offering, putting all this money into the actual company itself and creating this great environment that's going to make you want to work, that's going to make you thrive at where you're working. We don't have a lot of companies that are doing that. Like at Citrix, they might have a nice environment, they might have a nice corporate, a little bit kind of a, nouveau kind of feel to it, but still, is it a fun place to work? All these younger kids now, if you want them to go ahead and work and put the drive into it, they want a fun place to work. We need to create businesses like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And listen, and I work for a company, small company down in Deerfield, and we do some fun stuff, right? We have TVs everywhere. Every wall is a whiteboard. It's painted like bright greens, and we have a pool table, and it's like just the environment is a pretty fun thing, and people shoot each other with Nerf guns all day long, and that's cool. But the thing is that if any of us in here were to get a job at Citrix is a pretty darn solid company, right? And they have a future, right? And I'm sure they're paid pretty well, and it's a good. You say, hey, I work for Citrix. That's going to open a few doors, right? So, and where I was going with all this is that in December of last year, we had our new tech community meeting, and it was kind of we never really have a big meeting for those things, and we kind of put everybody in a room, and a lot more people showed up than normal, which was a little surprising. We had another group combine with us, and they were just in a room like this, and they started talking about what they liked, what they didn't like, what their ideas were, and it caught on fire. I left the room. I'm like, you guys continue talking, you're doing great. And it was just this melee of people's opinions, and this is what came out with it, was everybody wants to get better paying jobs in the area, stronger companies, and build the whole area up using technology. And so out of that, we formed what we call the group of groups. And the group of groups essentially takes people like Mark and I that run a group and everybody else who runs the other groups and puts us all in contact with each other. But not only that, we have representation from, Mark can go through the list, but we have representation, people on there from the universities and on the various other organizations, Knight Foundation, I mean, the list goes on. So what we have now is we have a way, a contact that we can get a conversation going between Mark and I and the head of somebody from FAU or from Miami or from the Knight Foundation or from Workforce Alliance and all these other things. And the idea behind Group of Group is really just do that, provide a means for a conversation to happen so that we can go to them, we can go, hey, by the way, we have this Friday entrepreneurial meeting now, we can tell them what's going on in there. And then we can bring other news and other information from other events that are coming on that we're more aware of now, and we can bring it here and share that. So what I really wanted to do is to get you guys in that mindset of thinking, let's build companies here, but let's bring companies in here. And I want you guys to understand that there are some of us who are really passionate and thinking about how can we do that. And we know we can't do it alone. It's going to take everybody. So one of the things that we always do, and Mark and I have done this for a long time, right? If somebody we know is having an event, if we can go, we go. Particularly if it's a new event, we'll drive wherever just to support and make sure it gets going. Right? When they started the WordPress group, I went to like the first 2 of them, and you couldn't get in the door. It was standing room only. I'm like, all right, well, I've done my part, right? They're up and running, and we're good. But, so that's the thing, is that when we see events, if you have an event, we want to know. And we're going to tell everyone else, but we want to show up to your event. Right? So there's an Innovate Palm Beach group that's starting up. And do you know much about it, or can somebody speak to it? Okay, so give me 2 seconds and I want you guys to tell us a little bit more about it. But anyway, so they're creating this Palm Beach Innovation Group for entrepreneurial things, and these guys will tell you a little bit more about it. But that's something I want to support. Why? It's aligned with the overall goal of building this darn thing up. Now, I want to caution everyone that thinks so we can go around having meetups and conferences. If 2 years go by and all we do is great conferences, we've got nowhere. We've got to have real results, right? So just doing conferences isn't enough. We need people to reach out to whomever and go, hey, you need to move your company down here, and here's why. Right? So you have to fight the battle on all fronts. There's no one way to go about doing it. You have to fight the battle on all fronts at all times, and it requires all of us in South Florida have to contribute to doing that. So let me let Brooke tell you a little bit about Innovate Palm Beach. And did anybody in here hear about this before I mentioned it? Have you ever heard of it?
I might have.
So everybody who in here has heard of it participates in the New Tech Community group on Facebook, right? Because it's been promoted on there. So come on up. Let's hear about Innovate Palm Beach. What do you guys want to do? Where are you headed? And it's cool stuff.
Innovate Palm Beach is in its infancy stages right now. And what it is a nonprofit. We're going through the process of applying for our 501c3. And the point is to integrate, advocate startups and innovation companies that are going to deliver entrepreneurial values into our ecosystem here within Palm Beach County. As we grow and develop that philosophy, as we grow and develop that process, we'll then begin further outreach outside of our immediate community, but right now it needs to happen within the borders of Palm Beach County so that we can get a good litmus test, a good idea of what we're actually able to incubate, what we're able to support in terms of acceleration and entrepreneurial infrastructure. We really don't know how many entrepreneurs we have here in Palm Beach County because we haven't invested that much time and interest in that part of our workforce. So I think we've all have a great opportunity now to really reach out and then provide legislative advocacy with these newly established companies through their technologies, whether they're biotech, biomedical supply developers, whether they're technology development, web-based companies, or even going on the other spectrum where they're more arts-based. But either way, it's creating jobs. It's creating a link to our legislature here in the state of Florida, which is critical. There is money available out there. There are grants, educational outreach, startup outreach, SCORE programs. But the average entrepreneur oftentimes gets overwhelmed. They don't know where to go. So this is a wonderful platform to help them.
So I was glad you mentioned that because I have a friend of mine in Boston right now, and he tells me you can get free office space downtown Boston if you're a startup. They take like a small percentage of your company, and here you go, free office space. Because they want that much invested in the idea of building startups and entrepreneurship.
They're doing that in Chicago as well.
Like that here.
Well, we haven't had to. You have to look at the history of the state of Florida. Florida has been based on hospitality, tourism, and agriculture. Those are our core economic factors here in this state. It's changing. It's changing because our workforce is changing. It's changing because we've ended up having more of a flat global economy. The world is no longer round. We're importing and exporting much, much more than we ever had in the past or ever imagined we could. And that is including labor. So we're exporting development, we're importing labor. We didn't expect or anticipate this back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. What we're seeing now, though, is a wonderful opportunity to gain momentum. And that's why Innovate Palm Beach is developing and growing, because we recognize that you all bring a lot to the table economically for this community. But you're not going to get very far if you don't have legislative representation, advocacy, connections, networking availability. So that's why we're here. We want to make sure that we're nurturing that part of our economy. Any questions? We are. We just had our very first board meeting. So we're developing the board right now. It's a living, breathing entity now. We're starting to, we're growing. I don't have the exact date yet. We have a meeting coming up to decide. When is it? It is on the chalkboard already? I didn't know. I've been in mommy mode for 2 days, so that's what I get. The 24th? Okay, so it is on the 24th. I know we have a lunch meeting next week to go over the agenda and everything for it. Thank you. So as we grow and develop, obviously there will be a ton of community outreach. Community outreach is handled by Julian Key on the board, and so she'll be making sure to engage everyone. Please check us out on Facebook. Engage with us there. We do have a meetup calendar that they've situated, so that's a wonderful, easy way for you to all contribute and get involved.
When your board has to determine which government entities or which organizations you decide to work with, just because they might see the money that's going to come out of it, but they're looking towards their own agenda. How we're going to make sure that the companies you work with are going to be really for our agenda.
Some of the members of the board, their specific history and experiences in things such as grant writing, identifying the proper grant avenues, the proper revenue generating sources for nonprofits that would make the most sense for your sector. So it's going to be based on your sector, on your industry, and on your need. As far as the legislative connections go, we've got one governor. We've got a set number of senators. So the idea is we need to engage all of them. Any other questions? Absolutely. It focuses on Palm Beach County, but of course, our legislative branch is in Tallahassee, and that's where we get things done. That's it all rolls downhill.
You mean that's where we don't get anything done?
Roger that. Yes, sir.
Is you involved with the Business Development Council of Palm Beach County at all?
I know that we are, because that's Greg. And he's also part of various chambers as well. So he has a wonderful, and he's our legislative arm. He really is the person that we will rely on. He has relationships existing with the governor, with the mayors. So he is a wonderful resource for us as we move forward. And we develop more